Are you serious? As soon as I start filming these annoying people with this jingly ball that my dog hates, and she hates the dog that's playing with the ball. Hey guys, happy fall, happy October, happy all that autumnal stuff. This is my favorite time of year, so it's a good time to be alive. Come here. Come here. Good girl. Stop barking, okay? Please stop barking. Please. Please do that for mama. Could you? Could you? As you guys might have seen, my last video was actually about OCD, so it's kind of like interesting that I'm doing another one because I went for a long time without doing any of them, and now here are two in a row. But it seemed like a lot of you guys liked that last video, and I had asked you guys in the comments to you know, comment some of your thoughts that you have had, and it was really funny to see how many people had had similar ones and how many people had ones that, you know, I had had that I'd completely forgotten about. Can I help you with something? I'm talking. It's rude to interrupt. Did you know? It's rude. But yeah, since it is OCD Awareness Week, I wanted to do another video because there were some things that I touched on in the last video that I wanted to expand on a little bit. In making that last video, I talked about a lot of my thoughts and stuff and feelings that I had had as if they were kind of like past tense. And it is true that a lot of them, like, I don't have anymore, a lot of those thoughts. If you haven't seen this video, I will link it above because you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But just because I might not have these specific thoughts anymore doesn't mean that, like, I don't have OCD anymore. It's not like, poof, it's gone. Granted, it has gotten a lot better, and if you'd like me to do a video on that, I could do that potentially. Just let me know below in the comments like what kind of things you would like to see, and I can try and pump those out for you. My OCD is better. It has gotten better with a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of time, but it's by no means gone, and that's something that I kind of like really want to stress. It's not, and I say this all the time in the comments when I'm replying to people, it's not about a cure, it's just about maintaining where you are and kind of like finding a place that you can kind of acclimate and deal with it and live a normal life. So like I was saying, I'm by no means like completely free of OCD. I still struggle with it at times, but it is normal for, you know, your themes or the types of thoughts or like the things that it's targeting to change over time or to change depending on what kind of situation you're in at the time. So most of my themes have always been around like the main theme of harm. Whether it be, you know, I'm gonna hurt somebody or I'm gonna like do something inappropriate sexually and thus hurt somebody in a way. So it's kind of like always around that type of thought, almost always. I can usually find harm or like the fear of harming somebody at like the core of whatever I'm afraid of. So I just wanted to, like I said, I didn't want to give the impression that I'm like, oh, I'm free of OCD, like it doesn't bother me anymore in my last video. So I wanted to kind of talk about some of the things that still bother me right now. So I don't really have many harm thoughts specifically, like I'm gonna like lash out and hurt this person or I'm gonna like, you know, do whatever. I don't have those kind of like impulse type thoughts as much anymore. I've kind of not necessarily gotten it under control. It's just like my mind doesn't bring those about anymore. So it's just kind of like I'm not in control of what I'm afraid of or what I'm thinking. It's just like what my brain tends to show me and is like, here, look at this thing. Are you afraid of it? Should you be afraid of it? I'm going to show you again to make sure, you know, your reaction is the same each time. So my brain just kind of picks and chooses, and the only thing I can do is control how I react to the thought. So I'm not necessarily like, oh, well, you know, I'm not afraid of harm thoughts because I didn't want to think them anymore. Like, it doesn't work that way. I just want to clear that up. Like, I'm not necessarily in control of the things that are coming up in a theme. Does that make sense? I don't know, whatever. They change over time, so some people have had this experience. Some themes will stick around forever, some are, you know, there for years. But, you know, the thoughts and the kind of what they incorporate and the... What is that word that I'm trying to think of? What is that word? So something that has been bothering me lately are like checking type things, and I've had this before. It's just something that kind of comes and goes, but I've noticed that recently it's been pretty bad, where, for example, I will leave my house and I'll watch myself lock my door. And I've told you about this. I told you about it in the last video. Like, I'm watching myself turn the key, and I'm like looking at it. I'm like, but how do I know that I actually locked it? And I'm like, no, I did, and I'll check it again. So then I'll get like, I live on the 3rd floor. I'll walk down to the 2nd floor, and I'm like, did I though? I can't remember if I actually locked the door. So I have to go back upstairs. And I don't have to do this. I want to stress this. I do this because I'm not perfect and I'm not in control of my OCD all the time. My cat's gonna jump at the camera. I can jump. Look at my babies. Look at my babies. Mommy loves you. Mommy loves you. What are you doing? Go away, please. I'm busy. And sometimes like I'll get down there and I'm like, man, I don't remember. And I get really mad at myself, honestly, because I'm like, man, you know, I know that I told myself that I locked the door. Like, I know when I was leaving, but I'm like, but was it this time? Did I imagine it? How do I know? Like, what if the door, you know, isn't actually locked? And this, again, comes down to, like, a harm theme. There's a harm thought at the very, like, core of this. So my thing is that, you know, I have a cat and a dog. And my cat, if the door is not locked with the key, he can open it. Because for some reason, like, I don't know, the handle on my door is, like, not a knob, it's like a bar. And he can jump and he can pull it down and open it. I don't want to throw this for you right now. Why do you have to do this right now? So he can open it. And he has opened it in the past. And I'm afraid that if I'm out for the day and I'm not home for a few hours, if my cat opens the door, both of my pets are going to get out. And they're going to get lost, or they're going to get run over, or, you know, something bad is going to happen, and it's going to be because, like, I did something wrong through neglect that caused them harm. So that's a common theme that I've seen people have issues with. It's that, like, you're not going to mean to cause somebody or something harm, but it might happen through neglect. Like, you might do something carelessly, or you might, you know, forget to do something that is important, and therefore somebody's going to be hurt. You're going to get hurt in a minute. So that's one thing that I've noticed has been really bad. And it'll happen also when I go to bed. So like one night I stopped counting at 14 times. I got up to check and make sure that I had locked the door, because it's like, I'll be laying down and I'm like, man, I really don't remember. And I'll check the door and then I'll go lay down again. And I'm like, but what if that last time that I checked it, I broke it? And now it's just gonna open when my cat jumps on it. Because he does that sometimes in the middle of the night, you know, because cats are weird, and at like 3 in the morning, they're like, oh, I have nothing to do, so I'm just gonna run around like a nut. And then he will do that and jump on the door. So I'll do that. And I'm trying not to, like, I have to do it in like a slow process. I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna allow myself to check it once or twice, and then after that I just have to live with the uncertainty of not knowing. Because, like I said, if I don't let myself be like, no, I have to live with that uncertainty, if I don't make myself do that, I won't get any sleep. And I won't go anywhere because I'm afraid to leave the house, I'm afraid I didn't lock the door. You know, I'm working on it. I'm not perfect. So another thing that I mentioned actually in the last video as well, I have a big problem right now. I think this is one of my main things, because when it comes on, it's very strong. So I have a problem with like catastrophic and like black and white type thinking that is common for people with OCD. And like I mentioned in the last video, I like mentioned that I convinced myself that I contracted HIV. In my head, I was like, well, I definitely have HIV. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, I do. I am going to get kicked out of school. I'm going to lose my scholarship, and I'm going to get deported, because China doesn't let foreigners have a residence permit if they are HIV positive, or if I think they have any kind of autoimmune disease. So there's that. So I'm like, well, my future is ruined, and like all the stuff that I've worked for is down the drain. And it's not even like my health was a point in this. I was like, well, everything I worked for is gone. There was no like in between of like, oh yeah, well, you know, it's not likely, first of all. And then second of all, I haven't really done anything necessarily that would expose me to having HIV. So I'm like, there was no like thought process of that. It went from like 0 to 100 real quick, and I was like, well, everything, that's it. And I was losing sleep. I was like panicking. I was just really having a bad time. Similarly, another event where I had this catastrophic thinking. So as you guys know, I live in China, and if you've heard anything about, you know, China, you've probably heard about how, you know, the internet is policed and like a lot of things like Big Brother, all this stuff. So I was on some, let's just say, unsavory websites, and my VPN dropped a couple times. I was like, I don't know about that. That makes me a little bit nervous. So what I did, I messaged my like VPN provider, and I was like, so what happens if my VPN drops when I'm on these websites? They're like, oh, then like, you know, then anyone can see like your internet history or whatever. And I'm like, my IP address is visible to the people that I'm trying to hide it from. Like, wait a minute. This is not what I signed up for. And I got really upset. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. I'm getting arrested. And like every time, so I'm like sitting in my house, every time I'd hear like a car door outside, I'd be like, is that a cop car? I'm like sitting here waiting to hear like whoop whoop of the sirens, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting arrested. And I'm like, what am I gonna do with my pets if I get arrested? Like, should I tell my friends I think I'm gonna get arrested so that they can come take my pets away? Like, you know, and I'm like building up this giant scenario in my head of where I basically end up in the gulag because I was on some website that I shouldn't have been. But so I texted my boyfriend and I'm like, I need you to Google whether or not I'm gonna get arrested for this because I'm too afraid to look right now. And he was like, no, I don't think so. So finally, you know, time passed. Days turned into weeks, you know, and I was like, well, I guess if I was going to get arrested, they would have arrested me already. They know where to find me. You know, and my IP address would have brought them right here. Like, they know exactly where I am. And no one came to arrest me. And then I was like, oh, that was silly. Why did I think I was going to get arrested? Because that's how I am. And it was funny too, because as soon as it started to get really bad, I found myself going into like old habits that I'd kind of gotten out of. Something that I used to do, or like a safe place for me, was to be in the shower. So for some reason, like the shower was like this like, you know, bubble that like no one could hurt me. When I was afraid that I was gonna hurt other people, I was like, no, I can't hurt anybody. I'm in the shower. Like, this is my, you know, this is my bubble. This is me. You know, this is my me time. I'm in my shower. No one's coming in. I'm not getting out naked to like go hurt somebody. Like, you know, that's it. So as soon as I was like, oh, I'm getting arrested, I was like, oh my God, I have to, like, I just wanted to stay in the shower. Like, it was so weird. And it was something that like I haven't done in like years. I don't know, it was just so easy, and it's a little bit alarming how easy it is to fall back into those old habits, and that's why I always talk about maintenance. It's about maintenance, not cure. You have to learn to maintain your status and where you are. So that happened. So that's just what I wanted to say about that. And if you have any problems that you find are recurring, or if you find that your themes have changed over time, you can let me know. You know, it's nice to have that little dialogue like we had in the last video. It's interesting to see what everyone else has to say and to see what everyone else's experiences are, because you realize like, hey, this weird thing that I was feeling, or this weird thing that I thought, I am not the only person that feels this way, or I am not the only person that thought that way. So on that note, I think I'm gonna get going, and I will see you guys later. Bye!